with the Chargers adding Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson to a pretty stout defense already, just how dangerous do you think the Chargers are going to be going into next season?
I'm gonna go on a limb, and I'm gonna say that they might be the best team in the AFC West. I know that that's crazy because they haven't played an official game together, but when you look at things on paper, as we normally do during this offseason time, and we make hot takes, bold takes, whatever you want to say, you have a lockdown corner, you have an up and coming corner in Asante Samuel Jr., you have an incredible safety in Derwin James, you have a double wham duo of Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa rushing the passer. I would say the only thing they would be missing would be, I guess, a big name linebacker. And, not to sound ignorant, but I don't necessarily know too much about San Diego's defensive personnel to go out there and say that they don't have one. But of course, the big names are the ones that jump off the sheet here. And we're just looking at it and we're saying, you know what? If the defense, like you said, Kyle, can keep up with what the offense puts out, I think this team can compete for a Super Bowl. I mean, they re-signed Mike Williams, which a lot of people didn't think was possible. Austin Eckler's coming off an incredible year. Justin Herbert's legitimately getting better as time progresses, as it seems. So, I mean, who's to say they can't go out there and compete for not just a divisional title with the Kansas City Chiefs, but I don't necessarily see a lot of teams beating them down the stretch if they can stay healthy, especially because of what those players that they acquired this offseason bring to the table. So, yes, I would say firmly this Chargers team is probably one of the scariest teams alongside Buffalo, alongside Kansas City, and maybe Denver once again, depending on how Russell plays. But dude, the AFC West just gets better as free agency progresses, and it's not even close to a joke, bro. It's scary.
Kevin, I'm in full agreement with you on this one. When I look at the Chargers as a whole right now, I think they're probably one of the best well-rounded units in the NFL. And I've always kind of made this point about the Buffalo Bills just because their offense and their defense are very similar as far as just total effectiveness goes. But when I look at this defense on paper with what the Chargers have, I mean, this is scary, Kevin. I mean, they got Joey Bosa, they got Khalil Mack, Sante Samuel Jr., Derwin James, and J.C. Jackson. Those are just some of the standouts. When you can list off five or six standouts on that side of the ball, that's incredible. And it really kind of goes to show I think the Chargers understand the urgency and the moment that they have because Kansas City has owned this division for the last couple years. But I think a lot of these teams in the AFC West, like the Chargers, like the Broncos, they see the need to go out and actually make an effort to compete against KC just because they can't play second fiddle to KC for the foreseeable future unless they just accept that. But these teams, like the Chargers, are going out and making a difference in free agency, and they see that there is a possible way to exploit KC and knock them off that top spot. And when you look at what the Chargers have, they have a great and up and coming defense. Now they added some great pieces with Khalil Mack and JC Jackson. And it goes along with what they have in an up and coming superstar in Justin Herbert at the quarterback position. I just think overall, when you look at this team offensively with what Herbert's going to be able to do with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler out of the backfield, I mean, this offense is going to light it up. But I think this defense, they have the personnel to now match with what the offense is doing on a consistent basis. And if that Chargers pass rush is able to get consistent sacks in a lot of the games that they play in, and this defense is going to be scary because opposing quarterbacks are going to have to respect the fact that Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are going to get after it. But then if you get the ball out and if you're trying to throw on J.C. Jackson, Derwin James, Asante Samuel Jr., man, this is kind of a nightmare scenario when you're going up against these defensive players because this defense is stacked on paper. Now, granted, we have to see what these guys are like when the season hits, and we got to see whether or not that these guys are able to mesh as far as the chemistry is concerned. But on paper, this Chargers team is taking leaps and bounds from what they were last year. And granted, they were only really one game away from making the playoffs last year. I think when you look at it right now, I think the Chargers are definitely a playoff contending team. How far they go, I'm not willing to commit that they're going to go to the Super Bowl just because I think it's a little bit too prisoner of the moment as far as I'm concerned. But I think this team, they have the tools in place to make a solid playoff run. And if they play their cards right, they could wind up in an AFC championship situation. I could definitely see that happening. But as far as I'm concerned, too far of a leap to say for me that they're going to go to a Super Bowl. But this is a scary team. This is not a team to be slept on. And the Chargers are looking like a great squad right now. This is not a team to trifle with. This is going to be a great team going into next season. That's just how I see it.